All right, we're going to go through a couple of problems of working with loans, and I'm going to just add in and Excel because we are going to use the Excel formulas to play with these loan payments. So you want to buy a new car. You have budgeted $550 per month for the car payment at an annual rate of 1.6% for 6 years. What is the amount of loan you could obtain? When you are thinking about using Excel and you're trying to figure out like what is the formula that I need to use? Well, think through what are you trying to find? So here you're trying to find what is the amount of the loan. So some people would call this the present value, right? So if we're thinking about we want to buy a car, what's the present value of that car? And that tells us we're going to use the PV function in Excel. Now, the PV function, we're going to start with our annual rate, so 0.016. We make monthly car payments, so we're going to divide that by 12. In the middle, we have the number of payments. We make 12 payments a year, multiply that by 6 years. And then at the end, it's the month, right? The monthly budget, so the payment. I can afford a $550 payment. So when you type this into Excel, it gives you $37,734.63. So based off of this information, you could buy a car that is $37,734.63, and you'd be good to go there, just using the present value function. All right, I want to skip actually to number 3 and come back to number 2 because 3 kind of breaks things down step by step here. So here's our information given. We have a home loan for $128,500. Our interest rate is 3.2%. We're doing this for 30 years, and we need a 20% down payment. Now, normally in mortgages, you do 20% down payment lets you know that you don't have to have mortgage insurance. So that is kind of the goal. You can generally buy a house with less than 20% down. You're going to pay mortgage insurance, and it ends up being a bit of money. So let's go ahead and start this. So 20%. If I need 20% of my purchase price of $128,500, that tells me that the down payment is $25,700. The last house that I bought, I figured out how much I had for a down payment, and then I kind of worked backwards of how much of house can I afford if this is, I wanted to make sure I had 20% down. So I kind of worked it backwards there, which is kind of an interesting way to do that. But anyway, okay, so if this is my down payment, the $25,700, how much then do I actually need to borrow? Because you don't have to borrow the entire amount if you make a down payment. So the total price is $128,500. I give them $25,700 when I buy it, right? When we sign the papers, and that means the loan amount is going to be the difference between those, which is $102,800. So this is the actual loan amount. So the loan amount is not necessarily the amount of whatever you're buying, because if you put money down, that takes down the loan amount. Okay, so what Excel function, we're moving on to the next one, what Excel function should we use to find the monthly payment? Again, with Excel, what are we trying to find? Here we're trying to find the monthly payment. So we're going to do equals PMT. We need our interest rate, 0.032 divided by 12. 12 times the number of years, and then the loan amount at the end, $102,800. So there's our Excel function to find the monthly payment. And then we're going to get to letter D. So letter D has multiple steps to it. So how much will be paid in interest? The part from C tells us that our monthly payment is $444.58. Okay, so this is our monthly payment. Think through this. I'm going to make that monthly payment 12 times a year for 30 years. So I'm going to take my monthly payment times 12 times 30, and that gives me a total payback. This assumes you only make the minimum payment every month, but I'm going to pay back a total of $160,048.80. So if this is my payback, but I did not borrow that much, right? So interest is found by taking the total payback minus the loan amount. So I'm going to take 160,048.80 minus 102,800, and I get an interest amount of $57,248.80. So I like that problem because it breaks it down step by step. I want to come back to number 2, where this kind of just gives you the problem and it asks you to do it all together. So we're going to do this one now, which is very similar to what we just did, but I'm going to help you kind of think through walking this. And when you're doing these problems, if you've never bought a house, it's not quite as easy to think through. But you kind of want to just think like, well, what's next in the house buying process? Because that's kind of how the math is done, right? We do it in steps. So let's go ahead and start this. You purchase a new home for $173,000 with an APR of 2.85 over 20 years. You made a 9% down payment. How much interest will you pay? Okay, so first things first, when you buy a house and you figure out the loan, it first is dependent upon the down payment. So I'm going to find my down payment by taking 9% times my $173,000, and I get my down payment to be $15,570. After I found my down payment, then I can say, okay, now I can find my loan amount. Because the house is $173,000, but I paid $15,570 at closing, so my loan amount, I only need to borrow $157,430, right? The loan amount is the amount that you borrow. Okay, so there's my borrowed amount. Well, if that's how much I'm borrowing, my next step is monthly payment, right? Because we're going to break the borrowed amount down over 20 years. So we're going to use Excel. We're trying to find the monthly payment. So 0.0285 divided by 12, 12 times 20, negative 157,430 at the end. Excel is going to spit out at you when you do that $861.33. Now that I have my monthly payment, I can find the total payback. Because the total payback is monthly payment times 12 months in a year times the number of years in the loan, in this case 20. So my total payback is $206,719.20. To find the interest, I'm just going to subtract the loan amount, which is $157,430, and I find my interest to be $49,289.20. So when you have this problem, it seems like, oh, I just need to find the interest. But it's not that easy, right? The interest is step number 5. You've got to find the down payment, then the loan amount, then you've got to find your monthly payment. That leads you to your total payback. Then you can find your interest. So sometimes these seemingly simple one-step problems actually have multi-steps in them. So just make sure you're paying attention to what do you have? What are you given in the problem? And what can you do with that problem, step by step as you go? So hope that helps clear things up with the loans.